In May 1958, in the midst of the Algerian War, the Fifth Republic in France was born. Mind you, this republic came into being due to the instability of the Fourth Republic. 66 years later, the Fifth Republic is on the brink of extinction, just like its preceding one. And now, after the 7th of July 2024 elections, the results have been alarming. What has befallen the Fifth Republic? Why has it lost its popularity over the years? Let's dive in. After the destructive World War II, France was left obliterated. With a weak state and next to zero infrastructure, France faced an enormous challenge ahead. It had to rebuild itself from scratch after years of occupation and destruction. In 1945, when the France state was on the edge of collapsing, many Republican institutions also collapsed with it. The few that remained were filled with Vichy loyalists, people who were in close quarters with the Nazis. To top all that, France already had a tumultuous history. Since the Revolution of 1789, the country went through a number of leadership changes. The countrymen saw republics, empires, and royalist restorations. However, none of these managed to last. The monarchy had already lost all the popular support, and the republic struggled with endless debates. So France, at the time, was caught between a rock and a hard place. The choice remained between tyranny and ineffective parliaments. It was a choice that would have satisfied no one. But as they say, the phoenix rose from the ashes and transformed the political landscape of France forever. Charles de Gaulle, a war hero and a key figure, had a belief. He believed that France needed a stronger executive branch. It started in 1958, when authorities in Paris were persuaded to dissolve parliament following a coup carried out by the French military in colonial Algeria. Afraid that the military may expand its influence outside of Africa, the government brought retired General Charles de Gaulle out of retirement to maintain national unity, much as he had done in the years following World War II's liberation. He created a new constitution to do this. With this administration, the president had significant authority, served a 5-year term, and was chosen directly by the French people in 1962 as a result of a constitutional amendment. Now you may be wondering, what was the motivation behind all this? The logic was simple. De Gaulle, the key supporter of the Fifth Republic, believed that the president of a nation should always remain above everyday politics. Now, the present government of France is known as the Fifth Republic. Today, many people think that the problem is that the current president of France, Macron, is trying to change the country without a parliamentary majority. They believe that he's using powers that appear to be undemocratic in the 21st century. But how much of this perception is true? We'll get to that in a while, but here's the thing. Many experts argue that creating a new constitution now would be risky. If the government were to put parliament back at the center of lawmaking, the process would require a lot of consensus and compromise. And well, if you know French politics, consensus isn't typical of it. Experts believe that the Fifth Republic has adapted well over time. It survived through decolonization, wars, civil unrest, and other different political challenges, including power sharing between presidents. The historian Marc Lazar points out that a lot of French people are fond of the notion of a powerful leader a la Napoleon. The idea of a Republican march explains why voter turnout in presidential elections remains high. 72% of voters turned out in 2022, despite expectations of a lower turnout. In the past, only in times of war, revolution, or severe crisis has France amended its constitution. So why do people believe that the Fifth Republic is nearing its end? There are several crises that point towards it. However, there are a few things to consider before. Well, first of all, there's a lot of disagreement on the nature of the Sixth Republic. Is it possible that it'll be similar to the US with balanced powers? Or will it be something like the European Union, with a head of state who's represented? One can believe that the Sixth Republic isn't likely soon because there's no majority support for it in the fractured French parliament. Even the recent snap elections are a testament to the statement. But before we can even make an argument that the Fifth Republic is ending, we have to look at the current election results. Now, if you're enjoying the video thus far, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more fascinating insights into geopolitics. French President Emmanuel Macron called for a snap election on June 9, 2024, in an attempt to bring clarity to the will of the French people. This was done after Marine Le Pen's far-right Rassemblement National aka RN, which received an unprecedented 33% of the vote in the European elections, defeated his presidential list. What happened in the elections was nothing but shocking. On the 7th of July 2024, the French voters cast their votes. As the votes were tallied, the unexpected turns on the election night began to unfold. Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally Party was thwarted by the left-wing New Popular Front coalition. However, this upsurge caused even more confusion in French politics rather than bringing any clarity. Now, the questions remain. Who may be the future Prime Minister of France? What do the election results tell us? What's more, has Macron's gamble paid off? With a commanding majority in the first round of voting, the RN appeared set to become the first far-right administration in France since the Vichy dictatorship of World War II. However, the game was altered by political scheming. To avoid vote splitting, more than 200 left and centrist-leaning candidates pulled out of the second round, which handed the NFP a convincing victory. With 182 seats won, the NFP now holds the majority in the National Assembly's 577 members. From a distant third place, Macron's centrist Ensemble alliance rallied to capture 163 seats. And despite having an early advantage, the RN only managed to gain 143 seats. So, was the election won by the NFP? Not quite. A hung parliament was a consequence of their failure to secure the 289 members required for an absolute majority. If anything, the cordon sanitaire, or the idea that centrist parties band together to keep the far right out of power, won this election. However, RN's success shouldn't be ignored. In the 2017 elections, the RN only won 8 seats, but by 2022, they had 89 seats under them. Now, after recent elections, it won 143 seats, which makes it the largest individual party in the parliament. Regardless, a month ago in July 2024, the NFP wasn't even a concept. Now, it's the largest bloc in the French parliament, and there's a possibility that the next French prime minister will be from this party. Funnily enough, its name is a reference to the original Popular Front, which in 1936 prevented the far right from gaining power. So, what does the parliament look like now? The French electorate is now clearly divided into 4 blocs: the left-wing New Popular Front, the centrist Ensemble, the moderate right-wing party Les Républicains, and the RN. If non-aligned MPs are excluded, there could be as many as 10 parties, depending on how the votes are counted. This is the extent of the clarity that the June 7th elections achieved. Furthermore, it's pretty clear that a sizable portion of the French public is unable to accept Marine Le Pen's ascent to power via her somewhat hollow but charming Dauphin, Jordan Bardella, the 28-year-old politician she installed as the RN's president. Ultimately, it's evident that the parties need to adjust to this new political reality in France. It's unclear, though, how they'll go about doing that. Now, the most important question is, can this hurriedly formed alliance remain cohesive? This hydra with many heads doesn't talk with one voice. At separate campaign gatherings, each party hailed the outcome. Notable individuals, such as Raphael Glucksmann of Place Publique and Jean-Luc Mélenchon of France Unbowed, hardly communicate at all. From the looks of it, this coalition doesn't seem sustainable, and the reasons for it are far more complex. Let's take a look. Anyone who's taken a glance at the situation in France can tell there's a high possibility of disagreements on diplomatic and economic policy. The European Union's budgetary regulations and France's mounting deficit may collide with the NFP's massive spending plans, which include hiking the minimum wage, capping the price on some items, and abandoning Macron's pension reforms. It's true that Macron's election night went better than anticipated, but he still comes out on the short end. Macron once said that the media cannot understand his too complex ideas. Even his closest friends were perplexed by his decision to call a snap election 3 years ahead of schedule and with his party lagging in the polls. A lot of experts and analysts believe that Macron took a calculated risk when he decided to call early elections. Did Macron come out on top? He undoubtedly upset the current quo, which saw Marine Le Pen steamrolling into victory in 2027. By April 2022, Le Pen's RN had become an institutional, moderate, popular opposition party that only the self-serving obstinacy of privileged and out-of-touch elites dared to denounce as unfit for power. This was made possible by the lack of a parliamentary majority for Macron's government and LFI's disruptive opposition, which favored street protests, extreme discourse, and unruly parliamentary behavior. Although the RN is still an influential force and has added a large number of MPs, adopting this rhetoric won't be as simple as it once was. Unquestionably, these elections showed that sizable portions of the French public are prepared to vote strategically in order to keep the RN from gaining power and do not view it as a legitimate political party. Macron's choice, nevertheless, could have expedited the conclusion of his own political project. The political center has come alive thanks to these elections, as evidenced by the fact that it won a much greater number of MPs than pollsters had projected. Nonetheless, prominent centrists like the outgoing Prime Minister Edouard Philippe and the current Prime Minister Gabriel Attal have stated openly that a new political coalition is required that extends beyond the confines of the Macronist coalition that has been in power since 2017. Does this mean that this is the end of the Fifth Republic? Since the French president is now not very popular, centrist politicians are keen to put their differences with him behind them. It could be hard to fully ignore Macron, though. Since he's too young to compete for office again in 2027, what's at risk for him is not his re-election, but rather his legacy and possible future positions, especially those in Europe. Building a new political project and political alignment involving elements of the moderate left and right will take time for the centrist parties. Most significantly, it will not be simple to choose a candidate who can best represent this diverse alliance and has a strong chance of defeating Le Pen in 2027. Macron will probably continue to be a significant figure up until then. Following these elections, the Fifth Republic of France ventures into unknown territory. In the short term, France will continue to play a vital role in EU integration and to be a major backer of Ukraine. Given the majority of projections, this steadiness is remarkable. To fight the extreme right, a durable balance will need to be found. But this new era of French politics will be unstable and fractured. The road ahead for moderate French parties is not easy. Their accomplishments, or lack thereof, will have an impact not just on France's destiny, but also on the world at large. What do you think will happen next? As you let us know in the comments below, don't forget to check out our other videos as well.